this on? Can you hear me? All right, fantastic. Thanks very much, everyone, for coming to the event, and thanks to Rish for organizing it. I know it wasn't an easy thing to do, and it's taken a long time, so it's fantastic to see it really happening. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on the background of Polkadot as I understand it. Of course, there are a lot of familiar faces here who already know it, but for those that don't, I think it's an amazing story. Then I'll spend a couple of minutes on Scytale, who we are, what we do, and then I'll finish off with why I think India is such an important place, and why Polkadot has to be way more active here, and why there needs to be more support as well. So, Polkadot, how did this start? How did it happen? Why? So, it starts with Gavin Wood. Everyone who's heard of Gavin Wood? Good, fantastic. Not everybody. Interesting. Everyone that knows his origin story. Okay? So fewer? Okay, so I'll give the fast story on Gavin because it's really, the essence of Polkadot, the why, and why it makes sense. So Gavin was a developer, or is a very active developer, based out of London, and he was into blockchain relatively early as something of interest for the social aspect of it. He heard about Ethereum via the white paper, via a friend of his named Johnny Bitcoin, who was someone who was a local Bitcoins person, and read the white paper, said, this is very interesting, decided on his own to code a prototype of Ethereum. Then he shared it with Vitalik, who said, oh, this is great, please join Ethereum as the CTO. And he went and got involved in Polkadot that way. In Ethereum that way. As Ethereum grew and got to be more important, they shipped the first version of it, which Gavin saw more of as a beta and as a test, and wanted to get working on Ethereum 2.0 right away. But as many know, that Ethereum is missing one important piece to be able to go forward in a structured way, which is called governance. And so this ended up, most of the original team split because there was no governance built in the code for Ethereum. And so then when it became clear that there were competing interests, Gavin decided to leave Ethereum and form Polkadot from first principles. So what makes Polkadot special? So first of all is governance, which is built in from the bottom, and it's built into the code. It has hot upgradability, which is really, really important in tech. If you have tech that's 10 years old and you're stuck with it because you can't improve it, like Bitcoin, which is even older than that, then it gets very difficult in a competitive world where technology is always improving and the speed of the improvement keeps increasing. It has interoperability baked in from the beginning as well, which is very hard to put on afterwards, as well as shared security and scalability. So Polkadot is something that we strongly believe in because it's built from first principles and is building, in our opinion, the right way. So build the basic building blocks first, and then add to that, and add to that, add to that. Don't hype it up, because people get very disappointed that way. And do it right from a regulatory perspective, which Polkadot is one of the few that's done globally, but especially in the US. So that's sort of the origin story as Polkadot is going on. Now, Scytale, how did we get started? So I'm of a certain age, as you can see by my white beard and hair. So I was doing something else before blockchain, which was asset management. So I worked at a bank, managed funds there from 2003 to 2015. Before that, I was on Wall Street in the US, starting in '94. So longer than many of the people in this room are alive, which is cool. Yeah, and then so I saw Bitcoin in 2010, and I set aside $9,000 to buy 1,000 Bitcoin. But it was too complicated, and I was like, yeah, all right, so I didn't do it. And then in 2015, I met a friend called Ed Hesse, who was working at an industrial company, but was very interested in blockchain because the industrial company made generators, so turbines for water to make hydropower. And Bitcoin miners had approached him to put the miners inside the energy systems. And so he knew about it, so he was into Bitcoin already, and he told me about something called Ethereum, which is something that's really, really cool, and his friends are doing it, it's going to be amazing. I said, okay, did you buy it? And he said, yes. I won't tell you the price that he paid, but at that time the price was $8, and he paid way, way less than that. So I said, oh, it's more than 10 times already, I missed it. And so that's 2016. And so then in 2017, I had left the bank and I was working at an asset management company, and I was inspired by an Indian American person because I was commuting and I was educating myself listening to podcasts. So podcasts are a great way to learn about what's happening in blockchain and to keep on top of the many, many developments. And so the podcast I listened to had a gentleman named Naval Ravikant. Has anyone heard of this guy? A lot of people. Excellent. And so he was talking about the importance of technology as being the only place he wanted to invest because of the social impact that technology has had. So the world GDP was relatively static for centuries. And it started to improve massively with the Industrial Revolution. And then the speed of that improvement got faster and faster and faster, so now most of us live better than kings did not that long ago, a century or two ago. The standard of living of most of the people is better, which is really, really interesting. And so then I said, okay, I need to be in technology. And this was mid to late 2016. And in 2017, I approached Ed and said, you know about the ICOs that are happening. Let's do a fund together. I'll bring the asset management expertise. You bring the blockchain expertise. He said, sure, let me see which friends of mine are interested. He has a bunch of people. A lot of them said no, but 2 of them said yes. One was Aaron Buchanan, who was the original chief operating officer of the Ethereum Foundation, and the other was Gavin Wood. So really lucky. And so I think, you know, life is where you have a good time when you're prepared for an opportunity and then something like providential, beneficial happens. And you need to be ready for it. You need to be open to it. And I was open to it that time, so I started the fund together with Ed. First fund, so we invested in Polkadot. We invested in Energy Web. We invested in Ocean Protocol. We invested in a few others. And that's how we got started. And so we saw what was happening in Polkadot from the very beginning and got very, very excited about it to the point now we're on Fund 2, which is a Polkadot ecosystem fund, and we'll be launching more products focused on the Polkadot ecosystem because we believe it's the future and the future of blockchain. And so I encourage everyone to look at the content that Gavin's put out. Why he thinks Polkadot is important, what it's building, what the principles are, and you'll see that he says many times, building good, complex technology takes a long time. And that's what's happening here, and we're just seeing it coming to fruition now. So I see some very familiar faces building some great things in the Polkadot ecosystem. We'll hear about that as the days progress, and I'm very eager to hear from them. But why India? So why is India so important? So there are many people from India here. You know, I'm originally from the US, and in the US are some very prominent Indian business leaders and successful people. And maybe even, you know, there's an interesting presidential candidate coming up who's also of Indian origin. I've moved to Dubai 2 years ago, and it's very different feeling to see the energy that comes out of India, because a lot of, most of the population, I think, is of Indian origin, and many, many successful Indians base their businesses there, especially in the blockchain space, which maybe we'll hear about from some panelists later. But why India now? So I think Polkadot is at a stage where it's very hungry for developers. So most of the projects that we invest with need developers. And India has a wonderful population, a wonderfully educated population, and is the home of most of the developers in successful blockchain projects, especially that I see in Dubai. Like, everyone's heard of Polygon. I'm a big fan of what Polygon's done, especially on the business development side, and they embody the energy that is India, and so big respect to them. And wouldn't it be amazing if they would actually build their tech base on something as stable and scalable as Polkadot instead of building it where they're building it now? So who knows? That would be very interesting, and I think it would be a good move for everybody. And so I'm just very, very grateful to be in India for the first time, and very excited about it, just to see and to feel the energy that's happening here. I think from a distance, it's hard to understand the scale and the diversity of India. And I was talking to someone before, joking, so I was just saying there's 1,600 languages inside of India itself. And I know there's a bunch of different cultures, and people from different regions have very different histories, but it's all part of one India, which is kind of the concept that Polkadot has as well, right? A bunch of different blockchains interoperating with each other seamlessly, but still part of the bigger whole. And so with that, I thank you very much for your attention, and wish you a wonderful day.